have to do one more.
One more.
Watching.
All
right, ready?
Washing.
G'day, champions. We're Street Pieces, and you're watching Bridge City.
Brisbane has never really been the first city that springs to mind when asked to name an Australian music city, and comes up even less when asked about a world music city. The 1970s, Brisbane was characterised as a large country town, and it's not hard to see why. A population of just under 1 million, isolated and far more politically conservative compared to its more populated and liberal East Coast counterparts, having elected one of the most politically conservative figures in the history of Australian leaders in 1968. John Bjelke-Petersen would go on to reign over an almost incomprehensible era of police corruption that would last until his retirement in 1989. It's against this background that the first seeds of the Brisbane music scene we know today were germinating. Quick, think of a 70s punk band. Did you think of the Sex Pistols, the Ramones, maybe even the Clash? You may not have thought of a band from Oxley and Corinda whose first release predates all these icons, and that band is The Saints, made up of 4 left-leaning politically active teenagers from Brisbane's south side, with tracks that went hard and fast and lyrics that captured the feelings of fury and rebellion that were brewing in Brisbane's youth. Rebellion against the government, against consumerism and against the status quo. The Saints embedded themselves in the city. They gigged in Chelmer and Sherwood, and their debut recorded in West End. Perhaps most famously, the house in Paddington, whose fireplace graces the cover of their first single, Stranded. Club 76, as the house was known, was the house the Saints shared, that they opened as a club in response to the lack of purpose-built music dens due to the government believing them to be dens of sin that encouraged debauchery. Tales from Club 76 are legendary. Wild, no-holds-barred shows, bricks thrown through windows by angry neighbours, and attendance that would spill out onto the street. Like most punk things, Club 76's existence was short and bright. It was shut down due to health and safety concerns. The Saints themselves would follow the same pattern. 3 albums in 18 months and an intense local touring schedule was followed by a relocation to London, where things fell apart, resulting in a disbandment in 1978. The whole thing only lasted about 8 years, but left us a cultural legacy of rebellion, anger, and a punk DIY ethos. This DIY ethic would permeate far beyond the punk genre. Due to our isolation, size, and lack of resources, Brisbane artists have had to adapt and become some of the most all-round artists in the country, managing all facets of their careers from distribution to bookings. The punk ethos of DIY wasn't just limited to the artists themselves. Distributors and broadcasters began thinking along the same lines. The University of Queensland housed a group of students who were drawn to the idea of a pirate radio station as a means of alternative information dissemination to the mainstream that was less labour-intensive than the traditional print methods. They decided to take advantage of the blooming FM radio technology and lobbied the federal Whitlam government to grant them an FM radio licence. This led to the birth of 4ZZZ, situated on the grounds of UQ St Lucia campus, Queensland's first FM radio station, a public broadcaster that was non-commercial and non-ABC. The punk ethos carried through the birth, the first transmitter built by hand from second-hand materials. 4ZZZ began its broadcast life on the 8th of December 1975 with The Who's Won't Get Fooled Again. This action began a legacy of rebellion that sticks to the station's mantra: agitate, educate, organise. This is not the first time we'll come across the legends at 4ZZZ, but the punk ethos of the 70s is where it found its roots, and it would be a crime not to mention these champions and icons of the local music scene. The impact of 4ZZZ cannot be understated. The year after its inception, on New Year's Day, the station began a listener-voted poll of the 100 best songs of the year. A Hot 100, if you will. This made its way down to Sydney to a little station called Triple J. That's right, the beloved Hottest 100 was stolen from 4ZZZ. If this doesn't exemplify 4ZZZ's impact on the national music scene, not sure what will. The tracks you should know from the 70s include From the Saints, I'm Stranded, Know Your Product, and Nights in Venice.
Hi, we're Lost Goat Found, and this is Bridge City Sounds.
Which you're watching.
Say the war's waged, but it's never won. Biting the penny until you bite it off. I don't know a lot, but I know enough. Revelation.
The tides of change hit Brisbane once the 80s rolled around, filled with events, protests, and everything that goes between. The sun of the 70s had set, which meant punk wasn't the genre it quite used to be, ushering a new era of sounds in the Bridge City. The 1980s, the world got to hear the pop sounds of the Riptide single Tomorrow's Tears, an upbeat pop song with deceptively sad lyrics, but nonetheless a tune.
What lines have you got? What inside information? You know just what I want.
Previous work from the Riptides includes 77 Sunset Strip, a song released during the tail end of the 70s with a very fun and fast-paced rhythm. 1982 brought the British Empire's colonial real estate inhabitants together to run, jump, swim, and all that fun stuff for medals and for clout, which is commonly referred to by the well-informed as the Commonwealth Games. A few royal celebrities showed up. There was a giant 13-metre winking kangaroo named Matilda. What isn't there to love? Well, not surprisingly, a lot. You see, Queensland wasn't exactly excelling in Indigenous rights. And still isn't. The act of bringing together all of the British Empire and its colonial holdings onto stolen land did not fare well with Indigenous Australians, understandably. The 1982 Commonwealth Games served as a chance for Indigenous Australians to highlight the justice and discrimination they faced daily to a worldwide audience. Therefore, the beginning of 82 was met with fierce concerns from Queensland Premier Joh Bjelke-Petersen, who declared a state of emergency and proclaimed street marching as illegal. Only 2 marches were legal, resulting in hundreds of arrests from Queensland police. Kev Carmody was born in 1946 and grew up a victim of the stolen generation. At age 10, sent to a Catholic school in Toowoomba. In 1988, Kev Carmody released what Rolling Stone Australia has dubbed arguably the best protest album ever made in Australia. Pillars of Society was released on Australia's bicentenary, 200 years since the landing of the First Fleet. The album included themes of ignorance and oppression experienced by Indigenous Australians. His track Thou Shalt Not Steal brought up the hypocrisy of the British settlers while also raising Carmody to a national audience. You may already know Kev Carmody for one of the most influential songs in Australian music, From Little Things, Big Things Grow, co-written by Carmody and fellow Australian music legend Paul Kelly. 1988 brought us other notable things for Brisbaneites, included, but certainly not limited to, the World Expo, which gave us not only the most 80s looking event we've ever seen, but also a giant sky needle from a prominent hairdresser. 1988 was also the year we were blessed with the Go-Between's 6th album, 16 Lovers Lane, featuring Australia's favourite song to hear during ad breaks, Streets of Your Town. This song launched the Go-Betweens into immortality amongst Australians. Songs you should know from the 80s include, from the Go-Betweens, Streets of Your Town and Was There Anything I Could Do? From Kev Carmody, Thou Shalt Not Steal, and from Little Things, Big Things Grow, and from the Riptides, Tomorrow's Tears.
Hey guys, I'm Ben, and I'm the singer and guitarist for Ben 10. I'm Tennille, I'm the drummer. And this is Harrison, the bass player. And we're Ben 10.
I wish I could have been what I wanted to say, but you caught me by surprise when you called my name.
A decade of luxurious change and lustful will, the 90s saw the all-consuming desire of boy bands who danced in sync, R&B iconic video clips, and rockers with piercings in all kinds of places. The 90s was the decade of cultural inclusivity, with musicians doing more than just making great hits, but also paving the way for a decade of cultural shifts. Brisbane too felt the changes of the naughty 90s, with the 90s described by many as a tangible shift of music movement in Brisbane. Brisbane did not escape the wave of pop that defined most of the 90s, with one of Australia's most successful music exports hailing from Logan's suburb of Shaler Park, Savage Garden. Formed in 1993, with 1997 bringing the release of their debut self-titled album that absolutely exploded, winning over 10 ARIA awards that year, the most awards ever won by a single act in 1 year, and selling over 12 million units worldwide. While it may not have been a mainstream scene, Brisbane was also home to one of the strangest bands that Australia has ever seen. Formed in 1993, Regurgitator released their debut album, Two Playing, in 1996, quickly followed by Unit in 1997. Unit went triple platinum and took home 5 ARIA awards at the 98 ARIA Awards. Their weird mix of electronica, rock, and wild tongue in their cheek lyrics have made a lasting impact on the musical ecosystem of the city. Regurgitator has never been afraid to take a risk, think out of the box and try something new, as exampled by the band in a Bubble, then Regurgitator Pogo Go show children's music projects. Musicians from all over Brisbane emerged to congregate in the city's heart, with the same desire for a crowd hungry for musical lust and a desire for new and exciting experiences. These new bands, all wanting a spot on stage, had to compete to get those venue gigs, and it was an untold yet clear coincidence that if a band was featured in the infamous Triple J radio station, that was their ticket in. The 90s in Brisbane saw the flourish of new and daring music, with the familiar sound echoing through the Fortitude Valley. Musicians seemed to mould their music into all sorts of similar shapes, all for a chance to be those familiar sounds that Triple J liked and broadcasted. Nevertheless, the 90s paved the way for a decade of cultural and even sexual change, with inclusivity being a new norm. Punk chicks and Backstreet Boys banded together to make a musical phenomenon, building a decade that had the true power to influence more than just music taste, but also social and political opinions. Music was becoming more daring, more resourceful, and having a double motive to enact changes in misinformed publics, shining light on wrongful politics. Audiences of the 90s wanted to talk about sex and vote, as well as November Rain. Zombies, and an oasis of musical tastes. The 90s provided a haven for musicians to play whatever they wanted, giving them the power to enact cultural transformation on audiences willing to be revolutionised. 90s songs you should know. By Savage Garden, I Want You, To the Moon and Back, Truly, Madly, Deeply. By Regurgitator, the song formerly known as Polyester Girl, Black Bugs. By Custard, Girls Like That Don't Go for Guys Like Us.
Good though.
Yeah, Alright, 3, 2, 1, go.
Hey guys, we're Allora, and you're watching Bridge City Sounds.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's enough of that.
I just wanna breathe in, breathe out, breathe like nobody taught me to. Sick of smoking up and feeling like I owe you. I just wanna move slow and process moments that we never knew.
In terms of the Brisbane music scene, the 2000s was a time of beginnings and endings. We said goodbye to several icons, but welcomed new friends with open arms. As we've well established by now, Brisbane has a long history of six-string shenanigans, with room for a little pop here and there. But with the new millennium came a wave of pop, pop punk, metal, R&B, ska. The list goes on and on. But rock and roll was not going to relinquish the ground that easily. While they did form in the 80s and found moderate success in the 90s, the 2000s saw the explosion and cementification of the possibly Brisbane's most well-loved band, the Lords of Brisbane themselves, Powderfinger. The 2000s saw the release of Odyssey No. 5 in 2000, Vulture Street in 2003, Dream Days at the Hotel Existence in 2007, before calling it a day on the back of Golden Rule in 2009. Through their 21-year career, they have won 18 ARIA awards, earning them the title of the second most awarded band in ARIA history, had multiple albums achieve multi-platinum certification, with Odyssey No. 5 achieving 18-fold platinum certification. But numbers and statistics aside, what really solidifies Powderfinger's place as one of Brisbane's best-loved bands, even after more than 10 years since they disbanded, is their dedication and support to their city. They stayed in Brisbane, not even moving when they found success, quote unquote. The city is plastered over their music, from the Roma Street train station making a cameo in the video for My Happiness, to their fifth album taking its name from the iconic South Brisbane street that nearly all of us have had a night out on, to the Brisbane CBD playing a starring role in the music video for All of the Dreamers in 2009. Plenty of bands showcase the city, but Powderfinger have been raised to legend status through their continued support of the scene as both individuals and as a group. Former members have opened multiple much-loved venues, recording studios, and embarked on solo careers. And the best example of this support came in 2020 with the reformation and online performance of Powderfinger for One Night Lonely, a fundraising initiative for Support Act, the charity that delivers crisis release efforts to Australia's music industry professionals. The 2000s also brought us an internationally recognised pop rock duo that tends to slip people's mind when it comes to Brisbane musicians, the Veronicas. The Veronicas were at the forefront of that kind of emo pop rock wave that swept through Australia at large in the late 2000s, their esteemed contemporaries including Shortstack and The Getaway Plan. Forming in 2004 and releasing their debut album, The Secret Life of, in late 2005, Hook Me Up followed in 2007. Both albums were incredibly well received both nationally and internationally, with The Secret Life of spawning 3 top 10 singles and being overall certified 4 times platinum in Australia. Hook Me Up took the Veronicas internationally, with Untouched cracking top 10 charts around the world. After a hiatus, 2014 brought a self-titled album with lead single You Ruined Me debuting at number 1 on the ARIA charts and also charting in the US and the UK. Their almost 20-year career has notably seen them awarded 2 ARIAs from 10 nominations, 2 Q Music Awards and 3 Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards. Songs you should know from the 2000s include from Powderfinger, My Happiness, These Days, On My Mind and All of the Dreamers. From the Veronicas, Forever, Untouched, Hook Me Up, In My Blood, Dead Letter Circus, Big, The Army You Own, Next in Line, and Lodestar.
Okay, right. Hi, we're Sentiment. This is Naga, and you're watching Bridge City Sounds.
The 2010s in Brisbane continued to build on the foundations laid in previous decades. Guitars and bands were still king. The best place for your band's first gig was still the 2 a.m. Saturday slot at Rick's backyard, as Fortitude Valley had been granted zoning as a special entertainment precinct. Life was good. The 2010s allowed our artists to grow in a relatively safe and stable environment. The relative stability had also allowed artists to experiment and diversify their sounds and genres. While you're always going to be well-serviced as a guitar-based artist, venues have slowly begun catering for more diverse taste, although a lot more work needs to be done. These venues have continued to attract and host both local, national and international talent to their halls, and live music is not just contained to the Valley, with some of Brisbane's best being found in West End, Mansfield and even further beyond. And one of the first acts from Brisbane to gain recognition in the 2010s is Ballpark Music. Meeting at QUT's Bachelor of Music program around 2008, the 5 members wasted no time recording and releasing their debut EP, Rolling on the Floor, Laughing Ourselves to Sleep, in 2009. Quickly following it up with their second EP in 2010, 2011 and 2012, saw BPM release their debut and second album back-to-back, setting up a pattern of releases that had seen the band release new music nearly every year since. The incredible work ethic, partnered with an electric live show that tours almost constantly, have seen Ballpark Music snag a place in many a heart, both throughout Brisbane and Australia at large. This contribution to the local scene has not gone unnoticed, and the awards circuit either, earning them several ARIA nominations, Q Music wins, and a J Award in 2011. Around the same time, something similar was happening in Mansfield. Violent Soho would be born out of 4 school friends and their love for rock music. Although they first formed in the late 2000s, they achieved their first tastes of success in the early 2010s. A short time being managed by Magic Dirt's Dean Turner, assigning to Ecstatic Peace, the label run by Sonic Youth's Thurston Moore, and the amassing of a passionate fan base were all milestones that took place between the band's formation in 2004 through the release of their debut album in 2008 to 2011. It wouldn't be until 2013 that Violent Soho would cement their place as legends of Brisbane, releasing an album that contains the best chorus to yell at the top of your lungs, Hungry Ghost. The band's third album catapulted them to national acclaim, with the single covered in Chrome reaching 4th place in Triple J's Hottest 100 and being certified ARIA Platinum. Following up the success in 2016 with their 4th album, Waco, and in 2020 with the Everything Is A-OK, Violent Soho continues to move from strength to strength, all the while boosting the scene around them. From Mansfield's postcode 4122 featuring prominently on the band's merch and in their live shows, to announcing club shows where tickets could only be purchased in person. From Rocking Horse Record, there is no doubt that Violent Soho rightfully will go down as one of Brisbane's finest. Stepping back from the physical scene for a moment, in the 2010s, artists were faced with a two-sided coin, the rise of streaming services and digital distribution platforms. No longer are artists confined to their geographic locations and ability to perform live to support their craft. A song uploaded to the internet can reach fans across the globe. Of course, it began in the late 2000s, but MySpace and Napster cannot hold a candle to what has become possible in the legitimization of platforms like Spotify and YouTube for distribution, and Facebook and Instagram for promotion. That's not to say it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. With the rise of Spotify, it has gained a monopoly in the industry. This means that it can basically get away with paying artists less than ideal rates. Actual numbers vary, but it is generally accepted that it is around 4 cents to 7 cents per stream. This means that artists can no longer just talk about their music, especially at the beginning of their careers. They have to be their own promoters, own managers, own accountants, with many local artists having full-time jobs just to support themselves and their music. COVID-19 has made it even harder for you to put all your energy into your craft, with the gutting of live performances, ticket sales and merchandise sales, leaving artists at the mercy of Spotify and the almighty algorithm. The future is uncertain for lots of artists, both up and coming and established, but there is only one way forward, and that is a community. Songs you should know. Ballpark Music, All I Want Is You, She Only Loves Me When I'm There, Cherub. Violent Soho, Covered in Chrome, Viceroy, Like Soda, Vacation Forever. Wax, Labrador, Wild and Weak, Most Hated Girl. Morat, Charlie, Better, Groceries. Thelma Plum, Clumsy Love, Better in Black. Tia Gostello, Strangers Always Get to It.
What's up? This is Young Whitty. You're watching Bridge City Sounds.
Now we reach the current era of music, the 20s, a time already defined by its unique adversities and challenges, while at the same time introducing a new tide of local Brisbane music crashing against the rocks of a pandemic and a seemingly dwindling future for the youth of today. While the ground was laid for the coming decade to be an open and exciting one for the development of local music, the COVID-19 pandemic has spread across the globe on top of a myriad of other issues facing the planet, proving the 20s, not even 2 years in, to be uniquely challenging for the Brisbane music scene. However, not to be defeated by these setbacks, the scene continues to fight back, with the hundreds of Brisbane bands, projects and artists continually creating and playing for its loyal punters, keeping the scene going, just as much as the artists do. For this segment, we sought to explore the personal experiences of some of the artists and band making up the Brisbane music scene, to tell their stories and to understand the environment in which the bands are created and survive in. In service of this, throughout the year we interviewed 8 different artists and bands for this project, aiming to create a sense of understanding on how those in the scene felt about the events, the future and themselves. Presented here are the stories and experiences derived from those artists, a peek through a window into the world of Bridge City sounds.
Yeah, okay, so just go around and just hold them like halfway between you and the person.
Of course.
Okay.
I'm Marcus and I play the drums.
I'm John and I spiele das Bass guitar.
I'm Ben and I sing.
I'm Alex and I like to do Sudokus.
Okay. Beauty.
My name's Morgan and I'm the singer.
My name is Ben and I play lead guitar.
Dom, I play drums.
And Cameron and I play bass.
Hello. My name's Harry. I play the bass.
I'm Tenison and I wish I wasn't here.
Yikes. I'm Ben and I'm having a great time.
I can rap. Izzy, I'm the bassist of the band.
Aiden, I play drums.
Yo, Hi, I'm Alana. I sing and I play guitar. I actually forgot for a second.
Oh yeah. My name is Blake and I play guitar.
That's Matt. He plays drums. I'm Seabass. I sing, scream, and say things occasionally. We're in Sentiment.
My name is Mithra Migaki. I'm co-founder and managing director at Black Label Music.
I need to change my name.
The Young Whitty?
Yeah, I just wanted it to be Whitty, but some dude already took it. I was just like, got like one song. Oh my god. Anyway.
We shouldn't add all the weird symbols. He was gonna add like a yen sign to the Y.
Pulling you out.
Yeah. Please put that up.
Just exposing me.
Do you feel that there's a Brisbane music scene?
Yes, it's definitely a Brisbane scene.
Yeah.
It's definitely a Facebook page, which is the Brisbane music scene. So.
Oh, that's not. No.
So yes, there is definitely a Brisbane music scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely bands that you see a lot regularly, like especially when we started out. I think there's different parts of the thing as well, like different kind of genres and kind of like niches. Yeah. But yeah, like when we first started, especially, there was like the same kind of bands you play all the time, and even now still, just the bands change. But and then at first, your first year is always friends that come and stuff. But then, especially recently, you see there's just other people that you haven't met before that I just go out all the time to go listen to music.
Yeah. And it's very much like it was a lot more like rockier than I think when we first started. The main bands we played with, we were completely not the right band to be playing with, because we were like, there was a lot of like psych rock, stuff that was a lot heavier than us, and I think we kind of took that on. We were probably a bit more rockier to begin with, and then we've kind of got a bit more pop as we've found other bands around Brisbane that are slightly more kind of our sound. But there's definitely a big kind of psych rock, maybe even garage rock scene in Brisbane, I think. Yeah.
Yep. Yes. Sorry. Yes, there definitely is. I mean, we've been playing in it, and so have many others.
Ben Tenison. We've been doing this. We are Brisbane music scene. We've been out here since day one.
What do you think we're doing well where others are failing?
COVID. That was a really loud one.
I do believe that, like, definitely compared to like Sydney and Victoria and all that, well, New South Wales, I should say, that our COVID has actually been so much better, which means that like we have been able to go out and actually perform and dance and do gigs and all that. So that helps. But I think also I saw that there was a new government program for the arts and like money funding and all that. Like
Yeah.
like so they've taken like notice, I guess, and just been like
Yeah.
being like, oh, these people are struggling. Let's help. Oh, it is a career. So yeah, that's also good.
I was going to say, like, all of the venues are really supportive of live music. Like, they really want people to come on and play, like, small artists as well, because a lot of the big artists can't do those bigger shows because of capacity and stuff. And so it's given a lot of people the shot that were starting small, who are pretty new, to have that shot of performing and performing more often, like you see in like the smaller venues. And venues like Rick's and Tomcat and Greaser, they're doing a lot of like smaller artists, like more local acts, which is really cool.
So what do you think the music industry is doing well, and where do you think it's failing in hip-hop specifically for you?
Well, it's doing well at keeping running. That's, like the reason why there's so few major record labels is because they sort of keep it secret, like the special ingredients, because there is a algorithmic thing that they know about. And anyway, I think it's sort of failing in diversifying music. Like they say, oh look, we signed a black artist, but they don't share what the artist wants to share. They only share what they want to be heard. And that's sort of like why Mitt and Izaac started Black Label, was to give that artist free range of artistry, really. And like they get to keep their story specific to them, not to the label. So, yeah.
What's something that needs to be done better?
Pay us.
Yeah, there's a lot in that question that can really just be tossed to the government, but
I think it just needs make it worth it. Like, it's a lot of fun just doing it for fun. Like, that's why we do it in the first place. We wouldn't be doing gigs or playing if we didn't enjoy it, because it's such hard work. Like, to regularly practice every week and between work and everything else you're doing, and then going to gigs and bringing all the gear to shows and playing the shows is very exhausting. And the fun aspect of that only goes so far. Like, we need to be paid.
I feel like although we're not a massive band yet, we've been around for a while, we're getting better every time that we play. Like, we should eventually get a bit of like a pay rise every single time, like, because we started on 100 and it feels weird that like nearly 4 years later we're still on a base rate of $100, even though like we have such a following now and like we get a lot of good feedback, more so than we did when we first started out, which is understandable because we've been together for so long. And yeah, we definitely weren't bad at the beginning. So yeah, it'd be cool like if venues kind of viewed us that way. They're like, oh, you've played gigs here a few times, you pull a crowd, maybe we should pay you a little bit more than the $100 standard fee kind of thing. Like, that would be nice, like if bands kind of rewarded us that way.
The follow-up is the flip side of that question. What do you think needs to be done better?
All ages, that's what needs to be done better. All ages doesn't exist very much up here, and to be honest, I don't think it exists very well elsewhere either. But we've had, I think one of the biggest shows that was put on that was all ages in recent times was at, I forget what the place was called, Princess Theatre, I think.
Wollongabba?
No, West End.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was West End anyway, or near thereabouts. And it was like 4 of Brisbane's biggest bands plus 2 openers. And this thing was all ages. The venue was massive. the turnout was massive. The whole show was just bonkers for like the best reasons, but all ages just doesn't get that chance anymore, especially considering that they'll never, get to experience what Crowbar was, or, like the Lab or other kind of things. And I think that these kids have got it, like I think I went to King Lear's. We played a show at King Lear's ages ago, and people who were, have probably never seen us or heard of us were just going nuts. And I ended up moshing with some of these kids later on at some of the other bands, and it's like, yeah, these guys have got it. And they were like super nice too. They didn't have to get any sort of like, I guess, etiquette pushed into them, or because they already kind of knew it. Just don't be a dick was basically the vibe, and not just to the pit, but out of it as well. So we need to reward them for that, I think. Not to be patronizing or anything, but it's worth putting out these, like putting on these shows for these people.
So do you think there's a diversity problem in the music scene in Brisbane?
I think there's a diversity problem in music in general. So yeah, I don't think Brisbane is too dissimilar from that. I think if consumers really looked for diverse music, they would find it in Brisbane, but it's not necessarily something that's super promoted by like not just the artists, but club promoters and radio hosts, things like that.
Is that kind of what drove Black Label, like making Black Label?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, Black Label was really started on, founded on the vision and the idea that we really want to promote the voices and stories of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists. So yeah, I think it wasn't necessarily specific to Brisbane, more so, like I was saying before, specific to the music industry and the entertainment industry in general.
Yeah. For as long as I've been a fan of metal, it always seems to be very, Caucasian dominated. And I don't think, it's a very welcoming place, and I've never met anyone who's not nice or anything like that, or doesn't share, the values of what a person should have in this day and age. But still, it doesn't seem very accessible. It doesn't seem very approachable for other sort of communities, just seeing a bunch of white kids piled into a room throwing hands at each other.
What's been one of your best moments so far as a band? What makes it all worth it?
I think it's really fun when someone, people asked us to sign their shirts and sign them. That was pretty fun, and that was a bit of a moment, and now it's kind of like a trend. People come up because we did it at a couple previous gigs.
I feel like you have to elaborate.
I don't really want to.
There's not really much to talk about.
I enjoy writing my name on things.
Yeah.
Worst moments.
The worst moments.
I have a worst moment.
I wonder if I think of the same one.
No, it's unlikely. Mine's obscure.
Okay. Go.
We played a show a couple of months ago at one of the coasts. I like the venue, so I don't
Barely
want
did.
Who knows where it was?
It's not the venue's fault.
It's not the venue's fault.
There's a lovely pavilion around there. It's a band frequents. But there was a band on before us who clearly the entire crowd knew personally. And then we were on after, and there was no one there, and this cavernous venue.
It's like a warehouse.
Huge
So
space.
it's like the sound just went out.
And there were food trucks outside, which were far more patronised than our show was.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, there were people there, but it was just halfway through that set, it was like, what the fuck are we doing?
And it was weirdly hot. The lights were really hot, so we're up there sweating out asses off.
There were 30 people there halfway through a set, and that was a big effort. I was like, wow, this was a disaster, wasn't it?
I think that because we played lots of small shows before Precision was starting out, where there's
not a lot of people
there. But I think what made that one worse is we'd just come off playing a few of our own. We just come off 3 or 4 of our own kind of sold out shows. So then kind of dropping back to that was,
We did get a swim at the beach though afterwards.
That was the best part.
They made up for it.
Arguably the nicest part, like a big old swim.
Yes, as you know, for me, I've got very personal reasons to be excited about the band. At our last concert, I died on stage. And this is the first time the 4 of us have been back together since.
It is.
So, very excited for the future. Just be around.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Should we expand on that?
We're just excited that there is a future.
That there is a John.
None of us
That we have a John.
None of us are dead anymore. That's always positive.
I can expand on that.
And that's something I guess most other bands probably haven't experienced.
Absolutely do not have to talk about it if you don't want to.
Yeah, last show was at the Woolly Mammoth on the 26th of February, and I had a cardiac arrest towards the end of our third song. It was our EP release show, and we played no songs from the EP. People came to see us.
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't even
People came to see us for the first time.
People paid to see us.
People came to see us.
They paid to see me die on stage.
Street Breeze is going to be lit. Oh my god.
Once in a lifetime, think of how much you'd have to pay for that if that was built.
Yeah, I know.
Like, come to watch a man die live. That would be a very expensive ticket.
It's illegal. Yeah. Like all the snuff films.
Yeah, I'm not allowed back at that venue. But yeah, so but you know, I guess tying back into it was ever a point when I felt like quitting. Even through this thing I've been going through the past 3 months, never.
What does success mean to you?
Not being in debt anymore.
More than $100.
Yeah, you know, being able to pay to release music would be cool. Be able to afford it. Ultimate success would be this being our main source of income. It's not gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. But hey, but yeah, minimal goal, like optimistic. What I can see happening, well, like bare minimum goal I would like is for us to make enough money where we can afford to put our music and not have to pay out of our own wallet to do that. That'll make me happy.
I mean, yeah, the financial side's definitely a big factor in us succeeding, but I think also when all three of us are actually genuinely enjoying what we're doing, because I find a lot of times maybe one of us isn't, and it kind of brings everyone down, and that one person usually is me. But yeah, like when one of us isn't enjoying it, it definitely feels like it's not worth it. But then
the band malfunctions in a sense.
But when all three of us are actually genuinely excited and enjoying what we're doing, then I feel like it's a huge win, sort of thing.
Yeah.
On top of the financial stuff, because it would be great to get paid more.
Indeed. Well, yeah. Look, success. If I can just chug along, and come on, if we can just chug along and continually find the opportunity and the energy to pursue this thing and to take it as far as it can be taken, then I guess that's what success is to me. I think of that in just regards to myself as well. For the span of my life, I just want to be pursuing the opportunity to do music, and it would be great if a bit of income would fall into my lap, so then I could do it more. But just being able to do it. Yeah.
This is a hard question, but what does success mean to you personally as an artist?
Success to me would probably be being able to support my community and getting my community involved, and also provide for my parents, which have provided me with everything. Just get everyone involved, really. Like, I see myself building courts, basketball courts in communities that don't have it, and like just providing for communities. That's what like the end goal would be if, I got to that level, would be helping out communities and providing for people.
What excites you about the future?
New songs. Just recording again. And getting back in the saddle. Get back in the songwriting saddle. Yeah.
That's always such a fun part of being in this band, I think, is that we write like pretty easily, and I guess like critically, like we all think about, you know, oh, is this actually a good song? Is, you know, what can we do to make it better and all that sort of stuff. And then as we get into the studio, it gets more and more refined and honed down. And yeah, that's really fun. And then it's satisfying to listen to the stuff when it's gone up on Spotify or whatever. And then, you know, listen back to it like 2-3 years down the track and go, yeah, I'm so glad that we put that extra harmony in there, or we did that guitar lick or whatever. Like, yeah, it's very satisfying. I like that part. And we should be due for it soon, I reckon.
Yeah.
This year or next year?
Absolutely.
Going off that, what excites you for the future in terms of success? Like something that you're really excited for?
Lots of partnerships. Partnerships with like established companies in the industry, but also partnerships with new artists. I think we're in a really good spot right now where we can like help developing artists get up on their feet and start up. Yeah, like right now we don't really, I guess, do everything that a major record label can do just because like we don't have the capital and the resources to do it. But we can, you know, facilitate artists that want to come into the industry. Like we have full production and mixing and mastering, people to help write songs. So like that's what I'm excited about, just getting new voices and showing them that there's a future in music.
Yeah, for sure.
A favourite Brisbane act?
The Elka Fields.
Stray Dog Saviors.
R.I.P. but Blonde on Blonde.
Osaka Punch.
Osaka Punch. 'cause
Sucker
they were-
Punch.
Laura Link, Flag Duty, Van Moss, obviously those guys are just going to get better and better and better and better and better.
Staples.
Staples
are
yes.
really good. Like Hope D and Psycho.
Oh, and YB as well.
Yeah, Dom drums in
Terrific. Really, really cool artist who I also drum for, but really cool.
Dandelion.
Stop it! Wax. We love the Baron Boys. Wetlands as well. We love the Blush Girls too.
Bad Neighbor, Semantics, Betty Ray's.
Bless you.
Now we gotta start again!
Stoker.
I love every Brisbane band. Hope is my favourite. Staples, Mum's Tennis Friends, Bamboo Bonsai, Flamingo Blonde.
Shout out Mrs. Sister. Shout out Ultra Dude, yeah. Shout out Alice DeWald, Machine. I love you guys. Yeah, shout out Allora, I guess.
Allora. Magnus? Allora. Sentiment.
Sentiment.
Evange's great. Yuka's
Oh,
awesome. Allora. Nathan MT. Evie. Straight Girls. Void is so good.
Oh, Selfish Sons.
Selfish Sons. Dopamine. Concrete Surfers. Sweater Curse. Allora.
Definitely the boys from Sentiment.
Allora.
Or Tane Joso, Passion Fruit.
I was going to say Psycho and Hallie as well.
Allora.
Dead Nerve.
Sick.
Dead
Nerve, Head Wreck.
Big Boys, Head Wreck.
Violent Conflict just came out of the Gold Coast, I'm pretty sure. Allora.
T33T. Quinta, aka Mitt. Alf the Great. Shout out Young Whitty.
No, that's great.
Follow Black Label on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, everywhere, Spotify.
Though these interviews provided a huge insight into the reality of independent music in Brisbane, we have only scratched the surface of the thousands of bands and artists occupying the Brisbane space, each with their own experiences, stories, highs and lows. This network of music stretching not only as far as Brisbane, but state, nation and worldwide, all contributing to their own scenes and sounds. While the future may look challenging, it is bright for those still fighting to carve out a space in the Brisbane scene, but the support not just from each other, but the punters and fans that want the scene to thrive in the coming decade and beyond.
Hey yo, this is Quinta on behalf of Black Label Music. You're watching Bridge City Sounds.
Young boy ain't hop.
I don't go chasing these hoes. I could just flex my girl. I want my stacks in a coupe. I want my mama in pearls. I want a house in the hills. I want an automobile. I don't need beds in a trap house. You know I'm trapped for real. I could just sleep in a Porsche. I could just sleep in a Porsche. If money is happiness, I do not have any. I want